Everyone is talking right now about what happened in Leipzig, and I want to address this as well, but in a different way than you might expect. What happened in Leipzig is really just a reaction to what we've actually been suffering here since 2019. This country has been hit so hard by crises. I'm talking about real crises, and our politicians, well, they keep talking about challenges. Now, of course, the calls for even more barriers, even more restrictions, even more crisis prevention are getting louder and louder. However, and I have to say this too, if anyone here actually wants to tackle the problems, well, that's wishful thinking for those who haven't heard what happened in Leipzig. Here's the first clip. If you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription.
Arrested while sitting. According to Bild, it's Jeffrey K., a building technician from Leipzig, married and father of a child. He was also a boxing coach at a Leipzig boxing club.
Now that Timmy is gone, we have Jeffrey K., who lost his mind, was released from the psychiatric hospital last week and, well, took people's lives yesterday. 2 to be exact, and at least 20 people injured yesterday, while some of those injured are still in critical condition. But what we notice is the leeway we've been given in these crises from 2019 until today. We keep hearing from our politicians. Yes, we are facing major challenges. What happened in Leipzig is not a challenge. That is a structural problem of our society that nobody here wants to address. Least of all Friedrich Merz, who now stands up and says, no chancellor has ever had it as hard as I do. And the crises we have, and I know what I'm talking about, I deal with them every day. These thumbnails, these headlines, because people need to wake up, because we are in a huge crisis. In a crisis where no one takes responsibility for their actions anymore, which we are seeing again now in Leipzig. A criminal 2 or 3 weeks ago who shot down a police officer is sent to a psychiatric hospital and is not convicted of murder. This person had a marital dispute and just drives into the pedestrian zone. How does Germany react to that? I'll play it for you real quick.
Time and again, cars are used as weapons, and there are always discussions about how to better protect city centers from such attacks and rampages. So far, solutions have often come too late.
This is another incident that really made me think, why are we focusing more on security again? I mean, hey, we're a country that spends more money stoking hate and running smear campaigns than, for example, on qualified psychologists. Yeah, that's how it is. We spend more money to defame some people here. And that's what I saw yesterday across all social media platforms. What I noticed yesterday, hopefully none of us, hopefully one of them, but who are they anyway? Instead of addressing the root cause, isn't whether it was an act of terrorism completely irrelevant? Shouldn't we be asking, why was he released from the psychiatric hospital in the first place? Why was he even allowed to drive? Why didn't anyone actually help this person? And I really speak from experience here. If you need access to therapy in Germany, for example, you have to wait 3 to 5 years. If you completely lose it and end up in a psychiatric hospital, well, then you basically have to take someone's life first. Just like this person now, that's the kind of climate that's becoming more and more apparent here in Germany. And that's why I have to say we need to get back to normal living conditions.
After the car rampage in Leipzig, which cost 2 people their lives, people in the country are asking themselves, how can someone commit such a cruel act?
The question I ask myself is more, what must a person be willing to do to commit such an act? That's a fundamentally different question. Something happened to this person in his life, and why does that happen? About 6 times a year in France, about 5 times a year in Germany. Why are we leading with such numbers in places where people are constantly being incited against each other and where crises are always made a bigger deal than in other countries? I don't want to sugarcoat this act in any way, just as I didn't sugarcoat the previous acts. I'd like to point out that the real cause of how something like this could happen might actually be the problem. You probably still remember the merciless judge, Hamburg. Whenever he was in the courtroom, he would say, "I impose the maximum sentence to simply prevent any further consequences." And that's exactly the problem here in Germany. The punishments for many things are absolutely too lenient. And secondly, everyone knows that if they lose it, they'll end up in a psychiatric hospital. And maybe, yes, I don't know, but maybe such a person was at the point where he said, "Hey, I need to go back. If I take people's lives now, then I have a structured routine again. I don't have to worry about many things. For example, how do I provide for my family these days?" And these are the structural problems that we absolutely need to address. And yes, I know that this video will probably get 0 views. Still, it should make people reconsider. And I know that, for example, let's take Carsten Jahn from Team Heimat. He doesn't like this channel at all. Why? I always use attention-grabbing numbers. I always use sensational titles. But that's exactly the point where people still react and where people are becoming more and more aware. I just don't stay in my own bubble. At some point, my bubble has had enough of me. Still, I want to give you something to think about. Out there, to those watching me, it's so important to start listening to people again. And above all, if you're studying, please make sure to study psychology, because we will need these people in the future more urgently than ever before.
The German police union warns against making hasty judgments about the motives and mental state of the perpetrator.
And what the police are really saying there is exactly the problem we have. We judge so quickly. Every year we have about 800 intentional killings, by the way. For comparison, Italy has only 300. They rank much lower than us on the climate index. Why? Because life there is better for people. But instead of rethinking things and saying, okay, we won't condemn him, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. The right-wingers immediately spoke of a terrorist attack. The left-wingers immediately spoke of a German. Videos of the perpetrator were immediately leaked. That's where many people were really unsure. Is he German or isn't he? So basically yesterday the main question was, is he German or is he of migrant descent? That's exactly the atmosphere that I would say, yes, describes it perfectly. The huge problem that we have. We are sitting on a powder keg, and Germany has really become a powder keg. That's exactly what we saw again yesterday. We saw it with Timmy the Whale. I chose not to make any big videos about it. Now the helpers are being attacked. Now the crew is being attacked, as long as there is someone to blame. As long as there is a scapegoat. And then we're told again, yes, global tensions are so complex. You don't understand any of this. Instead of saying, like with Jeffrey Carr now, man, let's just let it sink in and let's see what really happened there. That's why, again, I didn't make a video about it yesterday. I watched it. I was really shocked when I saw that car driving on X. And then when the people were lying on the roof, I was truly shocked to the core. And then I thought to myself, I was like, well, yet another tragedy has happened. And what we're going to get is, how can we restrict people even further? And for politics right now, I can see it just by looking at the people who watch my videos. Nothing better could have happened. On one side, Kimmy, the one everyone cared about, where we had the next crisis, now the Rampage. From Leipzig, where everyone is jumping on it again, at the same time on Vladimir Putin, who was supposed to be removed. And there is no good news anymore, no one. But no one sits down, especially not our politicians, and says, hey folks, you know what? We're just going to give you some tax breaks, no ifs or buts. Or we're going to sponsor new clubs, or, no. Germany is now responding again with more bans, with more problems, with restricting people even further. But trust is misplaced.
In addition, according to MDR, he was reportedly in a psychiatric facility until last Sunday. Because of aggressive behavior toward other patients, he was then expelled from the facility.
Yes, you get deported if you're nice. You end up in a psychiatric hospital if you're nice. If you cause trouble, then you can't be deported. If you cause trouble, you can't even stay in the psychiatric hospital where you actually need to be because you're aggressive. Nobody wants you anymore. And this very climate is actually our big problem. Yesterday, I read a report about selling halal meat in Germany. And I'll give you my honest opinion about it. Don't you think there are already enough bans out there? Don't you think that at some point you should stop forbidding people from doing everything? At the latest, that's probably when the atmosphere will improve because people will be calmer. Every time I forbid something to someone, it causes aggression or misunderstanding, which at some point is bound to lead to an escalation. And that's all I have to say about what happened in Leipzig. And of course, it's sad. And the very first thing I personally thought yesterday was, hopefully, please, please, no children. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw the pictures, when I saw the videos. And at the same time, of course, I also saw it on X. Who would have thought, right? The SPD, the Greens, and also the left are leaving X because there's only hate and incitement there, because they exclude some people. And I think it's time for us to reach out to people and talk to them, because things can't go on like this. What will it be next week? I would just bet on it. I would really bet on what the crisis will be next week, because going without a crisis or having only a government crisis just isn't possible anymore in Germany. People are unhappy and then look for something to spread new terror on our streets.